Twitter's not letting me sign in.
I'm signed in.
I was signed in 10 seconds ago.
Hi, this is the Gillmor Gang, and it's also Grand Central Station. Well, you need, what was the one ringy dingy, two ringy dingies. Just something obscure from the late 40s. I guess Lily Tomlin is old for most of the people who aren't watching the show. Luckily,
I'm exposing my children to her.
Excuse me?
They listen to her all the time. She's on Sirius, and they're fascinated by her talking about the telephone. And they're like, Daddy, what is the telephone company?
What is the telephone?
Well, she used to talk about the telephone company and do her whole bits back when you used to live in fear of the telephone company. We don't have, so I'm trying to explain why it was funnier at some points, even though they still get a laugh out of it.
But Lily Tomlin was the person who was on that Magic School Bus, right? And didn't she host that cartoon?
No, that was Ringo Starr.
Ringo, that was the Thomas the Tank Engine, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, although Alec Baldwin in the U.S.
Oh, really?
Baldwin in the U.S.?
Alec Baldwin did it in the U.S. In fact, he made a reference to it in a recent 30 Rock episode when he talked about how his voice was being used. Jack Donahue's voice was being used, and he said, even on some children's train program. But in the UK, it was Ringo Starr. It was the Fat Control over there versus the whatever they call them. They do all these weird things to translate it.
That show is bizarre, though, that's for sure. I mean, I don't know.
Anybody who finances Ringo's alcoholism for 10 years, they get some sort of an award. Speaking of awards, this is the Gillmor Gang, and we're not up for a Crunchy tonight because there's no category that would contain us.
Are those tonight?
Yes, they are. The Crunchies are tonight. Mike Harrington is in midair, so he can't join us today. But
is it too late to win something?
Sorry.
I'd like to win.
You could go as me. I have a ticket.
I'm just going to hold a camera up in front of my face.
So we've already heard from, let's see, Danny Sullivan. Welcome, Danny.
Hi.
And Robert Scoble. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, I have a ticket in my name. If you can impersonate me, you can go to the Crunchies tonight.
Why, you're not going?
I'm flying to Europe tonight. So.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. I was really bummed. I thought I got my tickets for after the party, so I screwed up.
Okay, well, we'll have a camera there to watch the impersonators. Who are you? All right, next.
See how many attempts it is.
Who are you? Next. Oh, Flashboard's the greatest thing. Next.
Flashboard.
Isn't that what it's called?
Slash Force?
Seriously, isn't that what it's called?
Flipboard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Flipboard. Oh,
I was conflating two dead technologies.
I like that name for Salesforce. Slash Force.
Okay, Kevin Marks. Welcome, Kevin.
Hello there. Nice to see you again.
And you. And John Taschek. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be here.
All right, so since Scoble's not going to be at the Crunchies tonight, who's going to win the Crunchies? And what are the Crunchies? And what are you going to be missing, do you think?
I'm going to be missing the best networking in the hallway. That's what I'm going to be missing. In fact, all day long I've had interview after interview because TechCrunch gets people to fly here from around the world, and they all want to come and see me to be on my show. So, yeah. Who's going to win? Instagram.
What
are the categories? Aren't there several categories?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Best meaningless photo app. Best wrinkle on a photo app.
Oh, Chartbeat should win
Best
for internet
pivot.
application. Chartbeat's awesome.
What is Chartbeat?
Oh, Chartbeat shows you what's going on your website in real time. Like right now, I got 603 people on my website, and I can see exactly what articles they're reading and what they're doing and where the traffic's coming in.
So it's sort of like Quora, except for your own website.
It's a dashboard.
It's a dashboard. It's
Yeah,
got
it plugs into WordPress and TypePad. It's very cool.
yeah, 596 people, 595. Oh no, let's get into the end of the
Dropping.
day.
Yeah,
They're
you can't
leaving.
talk about it anymore.
But I mean, you can do things like if you put out a tweet, boom, suddenly you see a huge increase coming in, and you can tell what's working and not working, and yeah, go Chartbeat. I mean, Pandora's cool, but come on, Pandora's been out there, right? I don't know the other one. Is RDO just radio without an A?
Pandora is not cool.
Oh yeah, Pandora's cool.
Oh, please.
No, it's great to have
How
an
many years in
application-
a row?
It's great to have an application that never plays the song you actually wanted it to
Exactly.
play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it plays 3 that are like it, so that you then go around humming all the worst music in history.
Okay,
all
I'm
day.
sorry. This is bogus. The best new device, the nominees for best new device at Crunchies, one of them is the Google Chrome Notebook. How do you nominate a device that nobody has? Okay. Hey,
Well, 600 people have it.
best new device, iPhone 5. It's going to win.
iPhone 5.
You're right about that.
Oh, it's going to win.
All right. Well, let's get some.
Is the
low-
Motorola Zoom on there?
I'm sorry. This is such bull. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness.
I can't even find it
I'll
on
just
Google.
stop
by the way.
talking now, and I'll be really polite. It's all great. It's all wonderful.
I'm trying to pull up the
read
final
through
list.
read through the best devices. What else is under there?
For best devices,
Yeah.
Steve's going, what the hell is going on here? Where are you going to read?
Oh yeah, I'm really confused by random conversation.
They have
Steve, I've had so little sleep. Stupid CEO changes and everything.
Oh, we're
but-
gonna get there. Don't worry.
Best new device. Okay, Boxy Box. Oh,
RSS will still be dead at the end of the show, and so
No, that's
Schmidt will
device
be
too.
resigned.
best new device. Okay, you've got the Boxy Box, which Google Chrome Notebook that you can't get. The iPad, which I'd be like, okay, that's a strong contender. iPhone 4, it's like the iPhone 3. I mean, it wasn't
With
that
a sharper
much-
screen.
It's not like the iPad, right? The iPad, really, you're like, wow, that is something that really happened last year that has been transformative. Then
Is
there's
Microsoft Connect
I
on
don't
there?
know what the no is, and Connect. And that's a tough one. Do you go Connect or do you go iPad? I'd go iPad because, frankly,
Oh,
iPad
iPad
felt-
changed the world. Connect changed.
Connect's going to change a
Microsoft.
lot more in the future.
Oh please, come on.
Come on.
It's great. I love the Connect. I actually went out. It's the only reason I've ever had a Microsoft product since 2001. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's going to change the world. iPad has changed the world and will continue to.
Yeah. So will Connect. Connect is going to change how we expect to interact with our computers. Just like, actually, I think the iPhone did set up the iPad with its touch interface. My kids now, every time they see a computer, they try to touch the screen and see if it'll do something. And that expectation is going to change with the Connect as well.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be a feature. It's going to be a feature of Quora.
CES, like, I can lie on the couch and start flicking through all my Netflix stuff. If it worked that way, that'd be awesome. Maybe. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the same movies that you've already seen.
Yeah, but I could flick. And
Yeah, no,
everything's better
I think that
flicking. Haven't you
the
ever used
iPad
iPhone?
gestures in 4.3
like
are going
that,
to change
right?
everything. Again, that's going to be a big deal. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the iPhone has been deprecated in favor of the iPad. The iPad is the platform, and the iPhone is a mobile device that hangs off of the iPad.
Except I carry my iPhone everywhere, and my iPad stays
I got a call
on my
coming
couch.
I've hired an assistant to carry my iPad around for me.
Be nice if you had an iPhone you could just slot into the iPad, though, right?
That'd be interesting.
Although, now that everybody's getting hotspots, I guess you don't need it. But that's
but-
what I want.
but
You
there
know,
wa-
remember, Robert, you must have saw that thing at CES, the phone that turns into the computer,
Yeah.
the Axiom or the Axis.
Yeah,
or
the Motorola. That was the other thing Motorola
Allies.
announced. It was.
I mean, it's an interesting concept when you get to the idea that you're going to have that one device that you could slot into anything that, suddenly I need to have my iPad. There's into my iPad and all my internet and all my data is there. Now I slide it into my computer and I'm at the hotel and I just slide it into the dock. That could be kind of
Yeah,
cool.
it
Well, why don't you
could
just slide
be,
it in?
except that it's
It's
going
kind
to...
of cool, but it's
Buy it.
in the real world. I don't think it's going to be
No,
that.
it's going to go
interesting.
nowhere. It's, like the tablet.
We already.
Microsoft
I mean,
tablet.
Steve is right that the iPhone is almost like a controller for the iPad. If you get the Scrabble game, for instance, your letters are on your iPhone, and your wife has her iPhone with her own letters on it, and you
Really?
slide letters to the main iPad interface.
I'm so gonna get
yeah,
that.
you can
I could
control.
never do that
Yeah.
with just an analog device.
It's just about a little piece of wood this long, yeah.
Piece of wood.
It's so much better when it's an app.
So you got to buy 3
you know what
apps
it
to
is?
replace the little pieces of wood that you have with Scrabble. Okay.
Oh, wood? Oh my goodness.
What's wood, Daddy? I don't remember wood.
These dead trees?
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 Trees? What are trees?
All right, so Eric Schmidt.
Trees.
Is he here?
Uh,
Did you get him on? Did you get him on
he
the
has
show?
plenty of time. He'll be on the show now, I'm sure.
He's flying to DLD tonight, but he's going in a little bit nicer way than I'm going.
When you say he's flying, he's actually driving the plane, right?
Well, I don't know. Google has a plane that goes to Europe every year, and I'm not on it, so I'm in the back of the United bus.
What's DLD? See, I should have gone to DLD. That sounds
Di-
cool.
Digital Life and
It stands
Design.
for, it's German for I'm spitting in Arrington's face.
I never
Yeah,
get
yeah.
back up here. Is it?
Yeah, that's where
That's
Arrington
where
got
that
spit on.
happened, yeah.
Oh, is
I
that
would-
it?
That's not an event that I'm going to.
It's how everybody on the Google plane gets over their jet lag before going to Davos.
Yeah. Wow, that looks like a good list of people.
Yeah,
Well,
they-
we'll be sure to watch this exciting Davos experience on whatever outlets are available. On
Well,
the
me
other
and-
hand, I would like to talk about Eric Schmidt resigning because I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
He hasn't resigned. What?
Oh, of course he's
He's
resigned.
still employed.
I'm sorry.
or did he get fired?
He was
They
fired.
reduced his salary down to $1.
No, it's been $1 for a while.
No,
It's been $1 for a while.
That's the status
I know.
status salary
I'm
of
being-
the
I'm being
nouveau
silly.
billionaires. All right, so seriously, was he fired? Yes.
No.
No, he was fired.
I don't know.
By whom?
He was
Oh,
fired
yes,
because of
yes,
that H.264 debacle, I think.
No. He sounds,
Steve,
he
you always
sounds
stretch
like
it to
he's
the
kinda fed
most
up, to be
obscene.
honest.
No, I go to the actual nub of the matter.
Why don't one of you two stand up and take all the shit I've been taking for 10 years? That's kind of how it came down
Well,
from reading it or whatever.
all right, so John,
Ken Auletta had a nice thing. I trust Ken Auletta. He's talking with somebody who said that
Ken
Schmidt was
Auletta,
kinda
I mean, I
tired,
started
trying to
reading that
be
book.
energized, and that wasn't really happening. He's been out there having to, be the front man for Google and be this lightning rod for anything that.
yeah, what a shame for
people don't like about Google.
$5.8 billion. What a
Well,
drag.
yeah, so exactly. I got my $4.8 billion. I don't need this shit anymore.
All right,
Good
so
time
John,
to get, by the way, good time to get off too, right? Because he's built this company into this big, huge thing, and now that it's kind of going into this dive or perception, or is it still hot or whatever? It's a nice time to step off, right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna write it out for?
stepping
another
off a roller coaster on the down part is not a smart thing to do.
Well, yeah, it's maybe it's not on the down, maybe it's just about to go.
It's not. It's they just
Maybe
reported
it's just a
earnings.
little
Their
down,
earnings
the
were
next big up.
their earnings were great.
But let's be honest. It's not the earnings that got him, to leave. It's the perception of Google that they're
Yeah.
slow and not innovative, not able to get anything to stick lately. Google Wave, Google Buzz. What have they done lately that's stuck? That's gotten Google TV hasn't taken off, and the guy in the top got asked to move over to the side and let somebody else run the show for a while and see if we can do any better.
Yeah,
Although
I don't
the-
know about that. I think that I think Larry and Sergey they probably wanted to keep. I don't think that those failures or lack of success in those product lines had to do with Schmidt so much as some kind of internal disagreements over the vision of the future.
Which
and
is what?
and maybe it started with China and what they were doing.
No, I think that's
China.
spin. That's what that's what Ken Auletta says it was about, but I don't buy that. But
don't know.
I agree with
don't-
what you're saying about Canaletta is the guy that wrote the book called Fumbled or something like that.
Googled.
Yeah.
Googled. Okay, I read the other one. Google. All right.
Yeah, I keep starting to read it, and then I go off and I read and pretty much anything else. Somehow this doesn't captivate me.
It's a great book.
It looks
I
like
did a
it, but I
long
just
review
can't
of it.
get past the first chapter.
It's a really, I mean, it really ought to be required reading for anybody who does internet stuff.
Oh, well, in that case, I will never read it.
No,
Okay,
really.
I'll take that personally, but yeah, sure.
Beauty of that book is he captures how much Google is screwing up or messing up, or as he's got a quote in it. Can I use profanity on the show?
You already have several times.
Okay, he's got this one quote. I can't remember who it was, but this guy's going in there, and he's from like CBS or NBC or some behemoth or whatever, and he's trying to understand what Google's doing, and Google's like, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. This is how we sell advertising. And he goes, you're fucking with the magic. He's like, I don't want people to measure how their advertising's doing. I don't want them to tell if it's working or not. I just want them to pay me a lot of money, and you guys are going to screw everything up. And the book is literally chapter after chapter after chapter of who Google is messing with. And the Google's not necessarily going out to mess with them on purpose. It's just, hey, this is what's coming along. The internet and Google as part of that has been changing things. I loved it. It was a great book.
Are you going to change your site to Social Engine Land?
No.
Okay, so search is still important, right?
Well, yeah, so, yes, it is. It didn't get less important. And in fact, it's no less revolutionary than what's happening with social. And they deserve their own movie at this point. It's just that I'm bummed because I keep trying to get to do a TED Talk on search and what a revolutionary shift it is and how and they never will accept it. So I clearly are not.
Why?
Because
Because it's too pragmatic and interesting?
Well, yeah, no, but it's like
Freedom algorithm. Yeah.
for hundreds of years we turned to our friends or our family, or we went to libraries, or we went to wisdom sources to get information, and then in like 10 years, boom, we started putting all of our requests into a little box. It's hard to think of a revolution that happened that fast in terms of information, where we dumped aside all these traditions and we went for that, and we take it for granted. It happened so fast we don't even question it, right? That's been the revolution of search, and it's not going away. People are still going to continue to do that. The social revolution is a whole other thing, and one of the great things to me about the social revolution is it's allowing you now almost to search through your friends in the way that you can search through content. You've got a question, you can put it out to your friends, and you can get answers back in a way that you were unable to do that, and that's going to help humanize some of the results. And it's a great thing too. It's not to take anything away from it, but it's definitely the cool kid on the block, and Google used to be the cool kid. Now I think they'd like to be cool again.
So, John, you were on the phone before the show. You were talking about some historical parallels, and I asked you to stop talking so that you could do it on the show. Would you please do it on the show now?
I can't do that now. No. The parallels. Well, I think that last week we were talking about Google, and in the closing remarks, I said something about all these fumbles are part of an issue with vision and communication, and I was thinking that after I said that, and I said, well, that it really does come down to the CEO, and because the CEO has to carry that forward throughout the company. And make sure that everybody's in alignment, and it just seems like there's many different divisions, and they're all running around and doing different parts, and the CEO has to keep those things in alignment, even if the company's growing like mad, like Google had, or it's making billions of dollars on one or two of the technologies, and so if you go back and if you look at Schmidt over time, it happened. That kind of thing happened at Sun. It happened at Novell. And it happened at Google. It's just that I don't want to take anything away from Schmidt at all, because he did way more than I'll ever do. But I mean, you can see that there's some kind of alignment problem that Google just did not get right, and it especially happened when they were faced with competitive threats in many different areas, especially this social threat, where they just did not get it right, and you're seeing it also in Android, where they have this great technology that they kind of fumbled on. They have the great technology, but how is it being executed with the carriers?
I'm
or how
surprised you would say that they fumbled on it. You're the big, cheer boy for it.
I need it to win. Yeah,
Oh.
I definitely.
So you want it to win in spite of the facts.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy I am.
Okay.
but
Kevin,
no,
you're like that too, right?
No, first of all, I think everything in Android that I use, every technology, and I mostly use business applications, not games. So I don't know what it's like for a game developer or, a Flipboard type developer. But everything I use, from the applications, a lot of Google applications, the search, navigation, Google Voice, applications like SpeakWrite, where you do dictation on the phone, voice. Everything works extraordinarily well. You cannot say that it's worse than Apple, or Apple's better in any way on that. And I of course I have Apple products too, but Android is great. It's terrific. Their problem is, how are they going to communicate all this great technology to every carrier and make sure they're in alignment so that they're on that people just know what releases are. I was just talking to a contractor who was working on a phone. He has an Android phone. He's like, yeah, I went to Mexico and something happened. I couldn't, they were charging me on my data plan. I didn't know how to turn it off, and I don't know what's happening in the next version, and what's this gingerbread and froyo, like he's completely confused. That does not happen in the Apple world. Even if people,
so
love
bad
it.
code names is basically your problem.
And also the way everyone aligns around those bad code names. I don't know what gingerbread or froyo means, but there's also Nehalem and and from Intel, and there's been Microsoft's had bizarre code names in the past too.
It sounds like a Google Translate feature has gone berserk. I have no idea what you just said. I mean, the last part I didn't understand. Kevin,
go ahead.
Why go ahead? You go ahead.
No.
No, I insist.
It's already gone as a thought. It was a silly little joke.
I know, and now I'm going to sit here like a terrier until you say it.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like a mixture of food and The Hobbit. I mean, we got Froyo here, Frodo there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Isn't that? Did we go to
it wasn't
Froyo, or did we go to Newsgator? Okay, whatever. Kevin, what's your take on
Android or on Schmidt?
Yeah.
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 Schmidt is an Android.
No, I believe in Android. I think it has been a huge revolution this
So
year.
you're choosing the one you would least not like to talk about. I want to hear what you think about Schmidt.
With Schmidt, I think what's going on there is, they hired Schmidt to be the front man because in that era you had to have an old guy in a suit to lead the company. That was what you did when you went public then, right? And
I'm not so sure about that.
And Larry has been there and he's ready to step up. And to some extent, that was part of the plan all along. And I also think
that's like saying that firing Muglia was Ballmer's plan all along. He just had to have Ray Ozzie quit first before he could do it.
And that's different. I think in this case, there were the three of them. They have worked as a triumvirate. They have had this sort of Sergey and Larry and Eric and Sergey tie breaking between the two and so on. And I think that has led to some slowness in some places because you have to get your project through the three of them. How
can you say slowness when things like Wave, that wasn't slow. It was like dead. It didn't happen.
Well,
that's
no,
not slow. They
launched it.
What was it that they did slowly that it was successful?
I'm not saying that slowness was successful. I'm saying this is what they're trying to find. I'm saying that deliberative model that they had has been slowing them down compared to startups who don't have to ask three guys before they can do anything.
I don't believe that.
No, it's
I don't believe the public statements from this team.
Yeah.
The facts of the matter is they could have figured that out without changing the CEO role. They could have said, "Hey, Larry's in charge, really, and you're the front man." The fact is, these guys wanted Eric out because he does not do a good job of explaining the vision of where this company is going to move, and this company is moving into a place where it needs a vision and where it needs a new product pipeline. Otherwise,
but I can't.
the stock market
Larry is
gonna
not a public
punish it.
speaker. When did you last see Larry
but
Page?
he's the geek who can explain where this company is going and why they're working on things like Android and TV and Google cars and et cetera, et cetera. Eric does not make me feel all fuzzy and warm about the innovation this company's doing. He's a good manager and a good operations guy, but he's not the guy I listen to on stage and go, "Man, that guy is just so brilliant and he's doing such really cool engineering and
Now
he's
hold that
gonna
up,
change
Danny.
the world."
Yeah, the guys at Top Gear didn't like him either. They were really, really upset at Eric. Oh wait, there it goes. I was saying Robert calls Google. This is hard to do.
Do it like
Robert
a
Apple.
crawl, so that it's
Crawls,
bulletin.
Google.
Yeah.
Liar. They moved me off the split screen with you, Robert. Yeah, the auto driving cars. I was watching Top Gear, the American version here, and they started talking about the Google auto driving cars, and they quoted Schmidt saying, "It's a bug that we drive our own things." Like he's never stepping foot into our studio, and it was not. A happy thing.
I think that's closer to what I find odd about this messaging is, 3 years ago, 6 years ago, the three of them were on the cover of Time magazine, this weird triumvirate, and to the moon, we're rocketing forward. Same three guys, and they're going like this, or at least at the best, they're going sort of flat. I mean, yes, they're up, about 8% in revenue? But, on the other hand, the entire global community economy is coming back. So how much of that is responsible for...
To be fair to them, it's like they're making money hand over fist, right?
Mm.
They are a maturing company, and it's not like they're a slouch. It's just the difficulty seems to be, if you're an investor, you still want the double-digit growth. That seems to be hard for anybody to maintain. If you're going to compare them against Facebook, which is building out an entirely new area, it's difficult. You want to compare them against Apple, maybe that's a bit fairer because Apple's actually building out new things as well that you might expect Google to be doing. So, on the one hand, you kind of feel sorry for them because they're this successful company, and just how much growth do you need from them and how much success do you need from them before you write them off? And on the other hand, yeah, I think there is this expectation. Why don't you have everything that Facebook has? It's important that Facebook hasn't taken things away from Google.
Except for people.
No, they haven't taken people away from Google either. Google's search traffic
Sheryl
is not
Sandberg
down.
was a pretty good hire.
Oh, well, if you're talking employees, absolutely.
Tim,
Yeah.
what's his name? Armstrong was a pretty good hire for AOL.
Yeah, but at the same time,
They're losing people.
Sure,
Right.
but Facebook's losing people as well now, right?
What,
Yeah.
to Quora, probably?
No, Facebook's just losing people because they're all, millionaires. Time that they can cash out, they don't need to stick around. In the way that
but
people were
Microsoft solved that problem for about 20 years. These guys seem to be, disemboweling themselves quite rapidly. And
Well, Microsoft-
and the main thing is that Apple has just basically said, "Oh, come on." Apple's blowing out everything. Apple has, moved past everybody. I can't think of any actual products that Google has released in the last 2 years that I use.
You don't. What's your phone?
Chrome.
You got to be kidding me.
You don't use the Chrome browser?
Yeah,
You
I
don't
use
use-
that. Yeah, but that's a product.
Well, yeah.
I'll buy
sure.
anything I've spent a lot of money on the iPads and the iPhones in this house. Let me tell you, I've spent $0 on Google products, and plus I don't click on search, so I'm not really impacted by this company. Obviously, they impact in a great way on their competitors like Apple,
Right.
but I think it's really apples and oranges, pardon the expression, to talk about Google and Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
but they're
Apple
going.
and anybody for that matter.
But that's not how they're viewed. It might be apples and oranges to talk about them that way, but they're being compared that way, and they have to measure up against it.
Right. I think
you
this
know,
is all backwash from from Apple's success. I don't think that anything is being measured against anything but Apple right now.
well,
I don't know
Facebook-
that it's been measured. I mean, in the Valley, it's not about Apple versus Google. It's more about Facebook versus Google. That's what people talk about. It's like, oh, my friend who worked at Google just got hired at Facebook, and oh, Facebook is pre-IPO. Everybody who works there is going to get really rich in a year. You know.
Yeah, no, I
That's
understand
the
that people are
conversation in the
talking
Valley.
about that, but there's a difference between the conversation and the underlying fundamentals here.
Yeah.
Certainly we've been talking on this show for a long time about the dynamic of, search versus social and on. But meanwhile, the iPad has just taken over the universe, and everything is now coming back up to speed behind or alongside the iPad. Everything.
So I wonder what this means for Vic and Dotra, because Larry was put in charge of the new social stuff that came out in the press today too, and I wonder was it Sergey? Oh, sorry, Sergey is sorry.
Right.
What does this mean for Vic
I
and
think he's
Dotra?
always been in charge of the social stuff. He was the first mover on Chrome. Was kind of operationally Larry Page's baby.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that Sergey was being put in charge of the day-to-day. Let's build out a social type of thing, which is what I think Vic has.
He's
has
been
doing.
put in charge of
I
three
got
or
the
four.
impression that part of the shakeup was, all right, Larry's CEO. Larry's going to oversee our existing products, make sure they're doing what they should be doing. Sergey, you're blue sky. You're in charge of making sure that we are that startup again, and that we've got these products that make people go wow, and we need to have that happening. So get to it. That was
John, what do you
I
think?
took away from the stuff I was
that was the
reading.
impression I got too.
I think that it's just the two of them are going to be the new duopoly, I guess, inside of Google. I think that's just they're going to take it over, and they will create a vision, and it's going to be a very engineering focused vision. And Robert said something a few Gillmor Gangs ago about will Google ever produce a beautiful product? Because I don't know, some company surveyed the parking lot and they all drove Priuses or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's so engineering. So it's I think they're going to continue to do more engineering, which would mean that they'll have to do a lot more partnering with companies to deploy better looking or better applications or better looking gadgets.
Right, and
devices.
that's why I think that all kidding aside, and I wasn't really kidding about the H.264 thing. I think that message was really damaging to them because it's basically totally destabilizing to partners for them to be, going down one road talking about, the more clicks, the more people, the more searches, the more, everything is going to be fine as long as we can, scour the world for information and then present it back to you faster than anybody else. And then they start to undermine the cornerstones of that ethic or that philosophy, that vision, if you will. And when developers see that, I think they go, if I'm going to work for the man, maybe I better take a look at who the man is. Maybe Microsoft is, not so bad. Maybe, there are a bunch of clouds companies out there that people are flocking to because, Google has damaged, I think, their sense of inevitability, among other things.
I think there's always going to be some element of engineering that's going to be required for a competitive advantage for any company, and Google may be that company. But a trend that I've been noticing is in design. Apple's always had it, but there's offerings in colleges and degrees, actually, masters of design, and it's a philosophy, and it's also like how to create better looking, more usable products. And these are this is all kind of outsourced to the IDOs and the frog designs of the world in the past. Now this is coming back into companies, and there will be companies that are design companies, and there'll be companies that will be engineering companies, and there'll be a couple companies here and there that will be successful combining the two. But Google seems like it's going to be much more focused on the engineering, and they have to realize that and communicate that this is the company they are. They are an engineering company.
Yeah, I think you're doing what Robert was talking about earlier in a different domain, which was Facebook versus Google. I think you're setting up a false. I mean, I agree with what you're saying about Google in terms of its engineering prowess, but I think that that Apple's core strength I think that it's the core of why the stock dropped when Jobs stepped down. Even though it recovered, the basic concern is not about the design, because they've got Jonathan Ive, they've got all those people that can replicate or at least emulate Jobs' fierce vision. But what they don't have, and I don't think we've seen yet somebody to replace him in that way, is this business sense, this ability to be able to make large mega prizes like the carriers and like the media companies and the record business and the book business and the magazine business and the information business in general, to be able to get them to move and move into a new transformational era. That his skill at being able to use leverage in concert with all the things that you're talking about, I think it's unparalleled, and I think that a lot of what's going on here with I don't think Schmidt does that. Schmidt, go ahead.
But you're saying that Jobs has that skill, right?
But in spades.
But it's not just that he has the skills, but he has a platform to do it.
He's got the goods. He's built the goods with that team.
It's funny, after my conversion to loving Oprah, thank you, Robert, last week, I went back to Oprah's website, and do you know that, from what I can tell, most of the articles that I paid that $4 for her iPad app were all available on the web, and they were available on the web for free.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to pay $4 to get them. I could have read them all online. Now, the app made it much more easy for me to go through it.
Easier than search?
Well, it made it easier than browsing. I didn't have to search, but if you go to her website, you got to keep clicking on the different articles. You can't flip through. It's not a magazine.
It's like the New York Times. You can get it for free if you want to do it every day, but what can you do every day?
But here's the thing I'm talking about with Jobs versus Google. So, Oprah has been convinced by Apple and Steve Jobs that it makes sense for her to take her content, package it up, and sell it as an application, and give Apple a portion of her proceeds. Google will send her the same number of people for free, and when it does that to various publishers, it actually gets accused of somehow robbing them of something. Apple is literally robbing them to some degree of the money that they might make, right? But Apple unlike Google, which comes forward with, hey, all I got is traffic, you got to figure out how to make the money. Jobs has a platform where he can come forward and say, you're going to make money off of this. Trust us. You're going to get a share. We put this whole thing together.
Yeah, but it's not accidental that he has a platform.
I didn't say it was accidental. I'm just saying that it's not just that Schmidt or Page need to be great salespeople to convince the partners to work with them. They need a platform.
Exactly.
They need to be able to say, they need to go over their pitch over the past 10 years has basically been, we'll send you a lot of traffic, you're going to make money off of that. And
or we'll sell you ads for you as well. There's that
what's
piece,
that?
But we'll sell ads for you and send you money. There's that pitch too.
There is that pitch, but it's still,
Well, they're doing better in display. They've
Right,
sort of taken off in display ads, and YouTube is now in the black. So, they're starting to look more like, that where you're advertising Big Buddy here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that isn't going to show the kind of growth that's going to keep people around that campus. And I guess you're validating what I was trying to say, which is that Jobs has this
There you are.
additional, extremely aggressive skill at marshaling forces, and also, being able to look and see over the hill to the implications of what their teams are creating and see what that's going to do. I mean, I think that, the iPad was designed to overturn the media industries. That's why they did it. And, the New York Times is now about to publish, I think they're going to charge $20 a month for something that, for the most part, you can get for free on the web. However, they've trained a bunch of people like me to realize that it's there. Oh, wait a minute, I'm busy. I have to read TechCrunch today. Oh, I can't read the Times today. Oh, it's I can't get to it now. I'll pay $20 a month. A lot of people will pay for the security and the availability of information, timely and available, to be able to catch up to. And that's a huge industry. It's going to dwarf the the pre-existing models like newspapers. I mean, we're going to hear all the, pardon the expression, all the free bigots are going to come out and say, yeah, I'm talking about you, Kevin.
I can tell.
Yeah, okay. Are going to come out and say that, the web, it's about free and, clue train stuff. But the reality is that it's both, and they will drive each other.
I mean, but what Apple has is not some magic thing that makes this work. They have a filter for a set of customers who have that much money and are comfortable with spending it. Because if you're buying Apple products, you have to be relatively well off. They've taken a slice of off the top of the computer buying population and taken the profitable piece. Now they're effectively selling that audience to the publishers, in the same way the publishers used to sell that audience to them.
But I mean, what are we going to spend our money on? There's no record business left. Software doesn't cost anything. So, we all have some discretionary income here that we're actually using to buy this stuff. So the whole market is going to move over to this real-time, app-based culture. It already has, but people are going to become accustomed to it, and the victims of this are going to be the Comcasts, if they don't adapt quickly, because we don't watch regular television anymore. We look at all the stuff that's rotting on our DVR, and then we I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that, and we end up flipping over to Apple TV and putting on. We're up to the end of season 2 of Mad Men now. I mean, it's like the only television I watch now is Mad Men and the news.
Are you buying that each
You watch the
episode?
news?
Yeah,
TV?
$20 for a year.
Can't you get that on Hulu for free?
What's Hulu?
Seriously, you can't. I mean,
What's Hulu? Seriously.
Well, no, you probably can't
Can
on
you
Hulu.
get
'Cause
Hulu on this?
Will give
Sure,
you
if you pay $8 a month. I'm already paying $8.
well, I just watched the past 7 seasons of The Office on Hulu for $8 a month. I thought it was a pretty good deal.
Okay.
Well, The Office is on Netflix too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
neither of them are. Mad Men is embargoed. It's not anywhere except on Apple TV.
And Crackle. But not very good. No, yeah, you got to buy that one.
Right. So,
Well, you want to pay that guy because I heard him speak on a panel and he gets grumpy.
Which
By the way,
one?
don't ever tweet.
which one? The Mad
The
Men
guy the guy who writes it.
Yeah, he seems pretty cranky.
Yeah, don't ever tweet about watching his show. It really ticks him off apparently.
Huh?
He was on a panel and he's like, I don't like it when people are tweeting about Mad Men when they're watching it. I want them to watch it. Then you
Get
can
that
talk about
guy's
it
at mention, and we will.
We'll drive him mad.
We'll send him a link to Dave Weiner's.
I was fascinated by Piers Morgan. Have you seen this? Because Piers Morgan just took over the Larry King show. And when
second?
they're playing it back, he sits there and live tweets himself. So he says, "Oh, there's this bit coming out that's really good." It's pretty bizarre. He's like doing his DVD commentary on Twitter while he's watching his own show.
So does nobody here think that there's a relationship between what happened to Bob Muglia and what happened with Steve Jobs? In terms of this transition at Apple, this transition at Microsoft, this transition at Google. I mean, is this just coincidental in everybody's mind, or is there some sort of a serious reboot going on right now?
I think it's deeper than the companies you named. I've been to Box.net this week, and they're doubling their customers every 12 to 14 months. They have 5 million customers now, and they're starting to double and get enough attention that Microsoft has to take them seriously in the SharePoint space. And Apple and Google are taking away from Microsoft. That Muglia got hit by a bunch of things happening all at once. Eric Schmidt is getting hit by Facebook, I think.
Not just Facebook. I think
in the Valley, it's seen as Facebook.
No, I think if you take it at a broader, at a higher level, and come away not just from the Valley, Eric Schmidt's getting hit in the face by two different things: that his company doesn't seem to still have the mojo, and people are afraid of his company. I think those are the two big themes. You got a whole bunch of people who are saying, for various reasons, Google's a one-hit wonder. They don't produce anything great. They're not keeping up with Facebook. They're not keeping up with Apple. Fine, they got all the stuff that they're already doing, but the mojo ain't there, right? Yep. And then you got another group of people, some of them don't even overlap, they're just going, these guys are freaking me out and they need to be stopped. They're stealing our data. Here in Bed Intruder, Google Intruder, they're coming into our stores, they're taking all our content. So we need to investigate them on antitrust grounds.
I think people are afraid of Google for reasons other than that they're Xeroxing every book.
No, there's a wide range of things.
Yeah, but I think you're right about this. But I think that there's a really sharp fear that's going on here, which is that they don't know what they're doing.
You mean from an ordinary person?
From who?
No, I mean, the way that the markets move, as far as I can see, is it's based on fear and anticipation of failure, not on success. Because success has already been discounted. So the things that people are afraid of are change, rapid change. Big losers coming out of, investments, like the whole economy collapsing and everybody, the value of everybody's house goes down by 40%. That was a pretty bad deal. And I think that what people are afraid of with Google is that they've sort of cracked open the notion of their inevitability and their invincibility. That, somehow that this Ponzi scheme of, just as long as we keep recording everything, that we're going to get the lion's share of those results. I don't think that's true. Bing seems to have had a remarkable... I mean, the fact that we're even thinking or even talking a year and a half later about a Microsoft search engine, to me, is just astounding.
It is astounding. On the other hand, we're talking about it because they invented huge amounts of money in terms of marketing, not to mention huge amounts of money to basically get the number 2 search engine Yahoo out of the space.
Right.
And it's only increasing tiny bits, whereas Google is also increasing its market share. So Microsoft's Bing is not taking away any of Google market share.
But Google is panicking, trying to move into social, and there's a reason for it.
I agree. You know what? If you look at the Google, Apple, and Microsoft finance charts, the comparison, if you go to Google Finance and type in Google MSFT AAPL, you'll see that Google and Microsoft are almost exactly in alignment. People think of them as the same kind of company. And Google was always like, don't be evil like Microsoft. Don't be the evil empire. And what you just said, they said there's a fear that they're the there's a fear of they don't know what they're doing. And what Danny said, they're kind of the bully, right? So if you look at the finance chart from 2006 on, they exactly mirror Microsoft. Whereas Apple they've had their ups and downs, but I mean they're just skyrocketing way ahead of them. They are a very different kind of company, and so even though people compare Google and Apple, they're not the same at all. I mean they're not. Google and Microsoft are far more similar.
Well, but isn't that part of the reason that Eric's moving on? Is that Eric has always defined himself against Microsoft, and that's been part of his career. All the way through, Microsoft was the enemy, and to some extent, he's defeated them now. and he
Yeah,
can
and that's
move on.
I don't know. To me, that goes back to what John said to me on the phone prior to the show. See, this is why you don't do this. Okay, there's an analogy.
Learning every day.
There's a stronger analogy with Novell than there is. The way that he was at Novell, virulently anti-Microsoft, and he lost. He got blown by Microsoft. Right? I mean,
right.
It was an impossible task for him to be able to survive that. He did a great job. He's always done a great job. But those kinds of signals, when they're sent at a point in time where Apple is starting to lap the field, is like saying, you're fighting the wrong enemy here.
Right. Yeah,
that's my point. Yeah, no, I think Eric has finally defeated Microsoft. He's done that.
I don't agree that he's defeated Microsoft.
Well, you said yourself that Microsoft is not
he's
threatened
put
about
in
it anymore.
place.
And John says Microsoft and Google are the same kind of company. That's what I'm getting.
Well, let me put it this way.
I agree with what John said.
In the enterprise, and I think also in the art of war, it says you are defined. Your company, or your person, is defined by what you call your enemy, and that's why. If you look at Oracle, they had an enemy, and then they changed it. They want to be more like IBM now, all right? So they changed it. They understand that philosophy. Google was always like Microsoft, and that you can see that their charts are very similar. And so they define themselves so much like Microsoft. Now what they're seeing is that they don't want to be like Microsoft anymore. They want to get out of that, and they're shaking it up. And you can see that.
But to do what? But that's where the fear comes in. Is that okay? You're going to shake it up. You're not going to do that. You're going to go from not making any money on Google Apps to not making any money on what?
Oh, I don't. They have so many assets.
Cars, trips to the moon.
They're not. They're not a company.
You really think
that's
that they have so many assets in a world where Foursquare and Quora and all of these companies can go from a standstill to significant audiences in 3 months?
Yeah, because they can actually disappear in 3 months too. And
you
Google
think that
will still be
Facebook's
around.
audience is, their page views, didn't they pass Google's page views about 3 or 4 months ago?
I spend so little time on Facebook, and I know you don't either. I mean, it's who's you? I mean,
I don't use Windows either, but you do. That doesn't mean that they don't have tremendous, economic clout. I mean, all this talk about how Google has won over Microsoft. I mean, first of all, on a revenue basis, not true.
That's they haven't won over Microsoft.
No.
Here's the
I don't
problem
know
for
that they've
Google.
won
I mean,
over Microsoft,
this morning,
but I think
Go ahead,
their
Robert.
big fear was Microsoft is going to kill us, and I think they have well put aside that.
I
Microsoft
agree.
is not gonna whip something out of
That's a
its magic
hangover from the
Windows
Netscape
bag.
paranoia. Yes, Google is Netscape. 2.0.
But for all their obsession and worrying that we've got to fight Microsoft from killing us, and that was our biggest threat. Seemed like they looked over there so much at Microsoft that Facebook and Apple have hit them upside the head, and they're going, "What the hell? What was that? Where did Facebook come from?" And Steve, I thought we were friends. Although Steve, of course, thought Google was his friend, and clearly nobody's friends.
Nobody's friends anymore.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. This morning I had two companies visit me in my house. I had Buddy Media, which works with ad agencies around the world, and is about to make some significant advertising deals. And all they talked to me about was Facebook. And then you got SkyGrid, who is coming out with something all focused on big brands and advertisers. And all they talk about is Facebook and Twitter. They don't talk about Google World anymore. And this is where the money is. These guys are very smart at understanding where the ad budgets are being spent, and they're taking away some of the oxygen from Google. This is why Google is freaked out.
That's not true.
Well, I'm sorry. I've
taking-
talked to Buddy Media this morning,
Which only does Facebook advertising, so duh.
Yeah, and they're getting huge contracts to do really big stuff.
That's great.
Google's hearing this.
That's
Right?
great. So Buddy Media has really big advertising to do stuff on Facebook. They weren't doing stuff on Google. So what exactly was it that they were taking away from Google? If you talk, it's because I
Goo-
talk to a lot of search marketers, right? So if you're going to suck the air out of Google and its core money, that means you're taking money out of the search ads. They're not doing that. They're not going. I was like at Google Zeitgeist event, right? That's all their top advertisers. And I was constantly talking to people, and they were telling me we're spending more on Google and we're spending more on Facebook, and we find them complementary. They don't say I got to cut my Google budget to put more into Facebook. So I'm not taking away, and I agree if you want to say that the oxygen they're taking is that Facebook is the cool thing. And in fact, I think that Facebook may very well overtake Google in that you can do, I think, better branded advertising on Facebook and get the branded money that people simply will not spend on search when people are all ready to convert. Because for whatever reason, we seem to want to spend more money on the branding aspect than the actual conversion process. But I think, and I keep looking at all these studies and these spends, and I just don't see anything that says Facebook has robbed Google of its advertising revenue. The problem is Google would love to have them both.
Yeah.
Facebook has found a whole new slice of pie that Google's investors are going, why the hell didn't you have that slice of pie? And are you going to be able to get any of that back?
Go ahead,
that's
John.
my take
And
on
Google
it.
got burnt spending, $1 billion on MySpace advertising guarantees that they didn't make back. That was internally to Google. The fact that deal was so underwater sort of made them think there wasn't anything there in the Facebook space. And to some extent, it's a different kind of advertising. And I'm not sure how much. Somebody wrote about very limited returns on Facebook advertising this week. So in some ways, the Facebook stuff is the branded advertising or the very, very targeted demographic advertising, which the point of the Google intent-based advertising was supposed to supersede that. Instead of saying, okay, I need 15-year-old boys in California, you say, I need people who want this product. And Google can deliver you the people who are actually looking for that thing. That was the seller for Google. So to some extent, the Facebook advertising pitch is a step back.
I see Facebook as competitive with the TV networks much more than they are with Google.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that one of the fundamental problems Google has is that they're locked out of any kind of real partnerships with any of the media industries, as opposed to Apple, which is not.
Well, they're
Yeah.
joined at the hip with it. I mean, they're tied in with that.
Yeah, that's my point.
but the point is, I mean, Apple's revenues from the iTunes store and stuff is still not that high. It's still not that significant part of their business.
Yeah, but when I start to watch
it's
Mad
devices.
Men and only watch the big TV through my iPad, which is what I've been doing now for a week, there's no difference between the content. You start to get into the advertising cycles of the networks, but being served through this device. And the iPhone is a smaller version of this device. That's a fundamental transition. And I mean, is there a music store on Android? No. Is there? Can you get movies and stuff? No.
Oh, absolutely. You buy it
Yeah, you
through
can.
Amazon.
Oh,
And
okay.
they've got it,
Amazon,
and they've
yeah.
got everything
Fine.
that
So there's a
matches.
coalition of
It's not a
companies
coalition.
that
You
don't
can
even
buy
talk to each
anything.
other.
You can
I
buy
mean, Jeff
anything.
Bezos didn't get fired.
You can find virtually anything, and sometimes more things from what I've gone and done searching on
Oh,
Amazon.
this is kind of a reverse. The web is everything kind of argument.
It's not reverse. They've got a great music store. They've got a great video store. I can buy things
I bought
things on Amazon that I'm only allowed to rent on iTunes, and I can own it. Last week, because I've got an Apple TV downstairs, I got a Roku upstairs. I don't get it. I can't get Hulu and I can't get Amazon downstairs. And last week I was looking, and it was like $1 cheaper for me to rent the HD version of
it's free to watch the shows, when they actually are broadcast. But that's not the reality. The reality is that your DVR is the thing that piles up, and as soon as it piles up, then you start getting into arguments with your family, and then all of a sudden
if
you're
I have an
screwed.
Android phone, I can play the media on that stuff as well. So it's not. It's a lot more convenient and it's a lot more efficient if you're using iTunes and you're using that whole
Yeah,
ecosystem.
it's 80% of the market as opposed to 20%
But
of the
Steve,
market.
honest to God, go get an Amazon MP3 account because it feeds right
I have
into
one.
iTunes.
I have
It
one.
feeds right- it
I
feeds
bought
right into
Highway
iTunes.
61 because they sold it to me for $4.
What's that?
A Dylan album. They sold it on. That's the only thing I've ever bought on Amazon.
Well, I've been buying DRM free music on Amazon since before iTunes offered it. And
Yeah, but the whole DRM free thing. This is MP3. What? Last I looked. Speaking of copyright restrictions and patents, isn't there a patent problem with MP3, Kevin?
MP3 is still patented, yeah.
Okay,
the
so
front of a patent
so
expired, yeah.
this,
Well, there's a copyright problem with it. You're not allowed to share.
yeah,
something
and
from
there's
one
a
computer to
quality problem with it, which is that it's garbage compared to even the crappy Apple high-end codec. DRM,
there is no
if
DRM.
you can't get it on your
There
machine
is
downstairs.
There is no DRM on it. I can
What
buy
is it that's preventing you from getting it on your machine downstairs? Is this the
Apple. Because Apple doesn't carry Hulu, and Apple doesn't allow Amazon on the Apple TV device.
Mhm.
That's the only thing that's preventing
and
it.
so you're saving yourself $1? Is that what you're being prevented from doing?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. If I want to, I'll give you an example. Every Thanksgiving, I always want to watch an episode of Mad About You that they did for Thanksgiving. It's a great episode. iTunes only had it to rent, and it was like $2 or something. Amazon had it to buy.
But why buy it if you're going to
Because every
watch it
year
once a
I want to
year?
watch it. Every year I want to watch it. I don't need to spend $2 for it every year. I'm that kind of a cheap bastard. But aside from that, there have been things that I can.
A friend of
find.
my mother used to stay up late at night because he could hear the refrigerator. He could hear the electric meter going around outside because the refrigerator was on.
Awesome example of Amazon like kicking the shit out of iTunes. So last week, the kids were all like, "We want to watch Despicable Me. We want Despicable Me, right?" So I'm like going, "All right, I need to, I'll check and see if it's on Amazon or iTunes or whatever it is." On Amazon, I could have bought the DVD, right? And it was like $15. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to buy the DVD or whatever." But if I bought the DVD, they'd also gave me the free digital download right there. So I could start streaming it. Plus, I can actually have the DVD if I want to keep watching it later on. Or I don't even have to open it up because once I've bought it on Amazon, it's in my vault and I can play it on anything. I can even download these things into a format that I don't have to use Amazon's own player to watch on. So, I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And it was something I wasn't going to get on iTunes.
This reminds me of the conversation around podcasting. When podcasting first started, it was amazing because you could do something you couldn't do before. You could, essentially play with the big boys. You could do a show or, release some content of some kind, and you could push it out to an audience and it was their. They did all the work. They pulled it down. They put it on their devices. They walked around. They interacted with it. It was amazing. Now there's this thing called streaming, and if I have to choose between pushing 3 buttons or pushing 1 button or not even pushing a button, I'm going to go with that solution. Particularly if the difference, it's like we were talking yesterday about this. If somebody drops 3 coins on the floor by mistake, a quarter, a dime, and a penny. Okay, which do you pick up?
Quarter.
Exactly. Do you pick up the penny?
Well, I would pick up the penny too, because
You would.
find a penny, pick it up all the day. You'll have good luck. I'm not going to leave
Okay,
it.
When
what
you're
about
down
the-
there, you may as well pick them all up. Yeah.
What,
bad luck.
What about the dime?
Well,
If
we're
it's
gonna
all
pick
right,
them all up.
and the penny is tails, so
I'm gonna
it's
pick
bad
them all
luck
up
to pick
if
it up.
they're there. But how did that get to you don't want to use Roku?
These metaphors lost
I
me.
was actually making that point.
Okay, so I got some quarters here. What am I doing?
No. So the point is, I wouldn't pick
I like
up the
20p, by the way.
I don't pick up the penny because then the only
They're in
reason to
shape.
have a penny is to have 4 of them so that you can make change for people who care about pennies. And I don't
well,
care
then
about pennies.
that's Apple TV because
Yeah, I
you've
don't
got
pick up
three-
the penny. I don't even
Apple
think
TV's
about it.
got 3 pennies. It's got Apple, iTunes.
I
and
pick
it's
up the
got-
dime and I
it's got
pick up the
Netflix.
quarter. If I'm in a rush, I pick up the quarter. Right? Okay. There's an opportunity cost to picking up the money. Now turn that around, and if you spend $2 a year,
All right,
to
Steve, I'm
rent
gonna
something.
back you up. You can go right now and buy a Roku player for $80, and it will do everything that the Apple player that you have right now will do for $20 less. And
no, that's just,
yes,
no,
because
no.
I run them
I
both,
read,
and I've tested them both.
I mean,
And
you've
it'll
written
do
the
it in
longest post in
1080p.
history about this, and I happen to have read it. So I have made an investment of more than $20 in reading your post about this.
And you didn't click on any of the ads, but
Never do.
But it does all the things. If you want to rent movies, rather than iTunes, you have Amazon, and it is incredibly easy to rent all those movies. There is no difference. You don't go, oh my God, I got to push 100 million buttons to do it. It is the same exact thing. It's the same thing. If you want to watch Netflix, you've got Netflix. And if you want to watch TV through Hulu, and you want to pay for the Hulu subscription, you've got that, which is something you simply cannot get on iTunes. And therefore, you're not able to do that option if you want. Where Apple,
I would rather spend the $8 for Hulu Plus to destroy your argument than I would to buy Roku and be at the mercy of whatever Fred Wilson startup has suddenly gone out of business because the networks have decided that Roku or whatever else, I'd rather align with companies that actually have some wood behind their arrow.
Oh my God, you really, really need to. I mean, I don't know how you can say that when Roku has a deal with Netflix and Hulu Plus.
I get Netflix on my refrigerator, for God's sake.
But Google,
True.
Google doesn't even have the deal with Hulu yet, right? I mean, if you want to talk about wood, you'd think Google has some, right? Anyway.
So that's why Eric Schmidt was fired.
It's totally.
It's not a fly-by-night unit.
Eric Schmidt and Google bungled Google TV. They lost. They didn't even hit the window for the holidays. They made an announcement the day before Christmas, which was to tell, Panasonic to go pound sand and stop because we're not ready yet. I mean, come on,
Steve. The main reason you need the Apple TV is because you're an Apple fan and you have a lot of Apple devices. And
I have the first Apple TV, which was a huge disappointment.
Don't you have the second one?
I do. I finally got the second one, but I was so resistant to it because of history.
Steve?
It turns out to be the most important device that I've bought.
Do you know why?
years.
Danny's sort of onto something, and the reason I have the Roku
Excuse
as well.
me? Danny's onto something. Huh?
He's onto something that
You're going to apologize for this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Just, when Scoble says you're right, then I got to actually do something.
The reason I switched to the Apple TV instead of the Roku box, because I have a Roku box as well, and I agree with everything Danny's saying. It's quite capable. It has Netflix on it and Hulu. But
So
my
does Apple TV.
iPhone controls my Apple TV. It doesn't control my Roku box, and I can never find the remote control.
Oh my God,
I always
Robert,
have
I kept losing that friggin' remote. I took it on a trip, and I could not find the remote.
And
anywhere.
it's
And
on
I'm
my
like,
iPhone.
what
It's
am I
called
gonna do?
it's
And
called
I use
Remote,
the
and it's
Yeah.
even better. You can search Netflix on your iPhone or
Exactly.
your iPad.
It's
This is how Apple
It's
wins.
just
It's
like-
user experience,
It's
man.
not-
It's Darwinian. I don't understand
if you
why
have those
you
devices
don't understand
and you
this.
like them. The integration is very nice. The ability to
Oh,
flick
don't give me the
a
design
video
stuff.
or slideshow off your iPad onto Apple TV is awesome. And it's going to get even better when I can finally take video that I've actually shot on my iPhone and flick it onto the big screen. There's no doubt about
here's
that.
Here's
If you
the
have that integration- but-
simple reason, Danny.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs is the largest single stock owner of ABC, of Disney. I know that Disney is going to be on the Apple TV. They've got at least 5 shows that my family used to like before Mad Men took over.
Like, what are they? What is it that you want?
I'm not going to get into the
No,
haters.
just give me one thing. I just want to see if Amazon...
Grey's Anatomy, Brothers and Sisters, or whatever it's called. Is that called Brothers and Sisters?
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice. They're all available for free on the ABC iPad app. This is not about iPads.
You mean to
This
stream
is
the
not
current
about
show?
free. This is about domination, worldwide domination. The same reason that AT&T bought Apple the ticket to take down the rest of the carriers is why they own ABC and they can take down the rest of the networks. That's valuable. The rest of it is, the switcher kind of idea, Comcast going out of business. It's all nonsense. Comcast is going to continue to roll up everything, including HBO, and they're going to continue to be a huge powerhouse. But Apple has the only ticket in town to the mainstream media to mix it with whatever this is and whatever is going on with the so-called free web, which, if you add it all up, it's still second place.
Well, it depends what you're making it a fraction of, right?
Steve, I can get Hulu Plus will give me the whole series of all 6 seasons.
Of what?
Grey's Anatomy.
I just told you that it's free without anything on the Apple, on the
All 6
ABC
seasons?
app. Okay.
Okay.
Well, they're all free on BitTorrent too. I mean, what's the?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
We gotta wrap this up.
Once around the
I got a plane
table.
to catch.
Okay. Robert?
Who's Arizona and why is she pregnant, by the way?
Who's Arizona?
Just looking at the episodes of Grey's
don't even
Anatomy.
wanna-
She's the lesbian surgeon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, one of the
And
lesbian
Callie,
surgeons, 'cause-
is that her partner?
Takes 2.
Oh.
Excuse me?
Oh, I've got to stop looking. I'm getting spoilers. Sorry,
See?
I gotta go
They
away.
just-
Last
Yeah,
week
you
it was
guys-
Oprah. This week it's Grey's Anatomy.
All right.
Poisoning the
Poisoning the tech culture with.
Okay, Robert.
I'm just watching Twitter.
What is it saying?
It's saying some guy called Eric got fired.
He did get fired.
They're still talking about it on Twitter, which is interesting. But
So,
most of them have.
I'll since you won't rap, I will. Which is that some sooner or later, maybe I'll write this for TechCrunch tomorrow. Sooner or later, somebody's going to figure out that what they did with Schmidt, they should be doing with Ballmer.
You're not the first to say that, but
I'm
You-
not
you
trying
have
to
a-
be. I'm just saying that
Replacing with the founders. Wait.
just replacing him.
yeah.
When he fired Muggley, he made a huge mistake, in my opinion. He fired the guy that was actually essaying this transition, and in favor of Sinofsky, whose only skill is in, shipping a product 5 years late.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll go with that. The minute that Steven Sinofsky gets the CEO job, I have an email to run. And so he's not an innovator. So
Yeah, I remember that email. That was a funny one.
yep.
John Taschek. Last thoughts. You got to turn your mic back on.
Maybe you turned him off.
No.
Yeah, okay. I turned it off. Sorry. Yeah, it's a I really enjoyed the show, and I got pretty much lost in the analogies and the coins, so I started looking for pennies and quarters on my floor. But
You were looking for pennies?
yeah, I was looking for them.
Don't you learn anything from the show?
Well, no. It always takes a week for it to register. I will say that the industry shakeups that are happening at Google, at Microsoft, at HP, at SAP, it's not even a sign of the things that are coming. They've already come. This industry is being shaken up in ways that are the most dramatic since the PC hit. It's unbelievable.
Big time.
And Apple is a driver. I still think Google has the goods to drive this, and the mobile device, the manufacturers, and the culture around mobility with the end users are also driving it. And it's a great time to be in tech again.
You think they're going to go? You think they're going to do well with the tablet? You think Google's going to be able to make money on the tablet?
Yes, because the tablet, if you look at it as a end user consumer device, they'll be fine there. But they'll make money in niche parts where it's an interface into a general a GE medical device where it's the open platform of it allows it to be.
Facebook and Twitter will make money on the tablet, not Google.
No, they'll make it.
No, that Android works. Android does not jump, over into tablets. It just doesn't do it.
Well,
it does.
They haven't done a release design for it yet. It will.
It's like saying Android doesn't translate into a decent phone to rival the iPhone. If you looked at the first Android phone.
No,
right?
I didn't. I'm not looking at the first Android phone.
No, but when I remember looking at the first Android phone, you thought this is a joke. This is a pain. This is never going to get there.
I didn't think that. I thought the Nexus One was astounding.
That wasn't the first one.
The
As
first
far as I'm
Android
concerned,
phone
I
was-
didn't touch
yeah.
the Droid for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but
No,
by the
but-
time you got
yeah.
to it, you were talking Android 2. Android 1 was a mess.
Yeah,
But Android 2
but
was a huge-
Google is good at doing that transition from 0.1 to 1.9, but from 2.0 on, I see no DNA whatsoever coming from Google about actually doing anything with these things. They have a huge economic engine, and what are they doing with it? They're basically building it out. They're going, that's why China was a big deal. It's like basically, oops, sorry, no more markets. Where are they going to go?
Well, that's true of Facebook too. This is Norvig's law. You can't keep doubling once you pass 50% of the market. This is obvious bit of math.
But
Google has done that with advertising.
But Facebook
has done that with online people.
But when Facebook becomes a television network, and when they become a global media network, Google has burned that bridge pretty dramatically, as Danny pointed out earlier in the show.
I think Google is already a television network. You're pretending YouTube doesn't exist now, which is bizarre.
Well, no, I think
where is this
YouTube's
show
fantastic.
hosted? This show is hosted on YouTube.
Well, actually, it's hosted on Uyala at the moment.
Oh, it is?
I haven't uploaded it to YouTube in strike against the H.264 thing in 3 weeks.
Well, I've been running my laptop with
We need a little symbol like dolphin free or dolphin safe.
free. 264.
You need to have a little H223.
Well, if it works on this, then they're doing the right thing.
What's this?
This,
What's
the iPad.
that?
the driver of all of the
It's so
technology.
magical.
What?
It's so magical.
It is magical.
Does it fly?
Let's leave the stuff that's indisputable, please.
All hail the
Okay.
iPad.
Robert, I'm going to give you one more shot at summing up, and then I'm not forgetting you, Kevin.
I'm gonna go play some Connect with my kids before I go to Europe for 2 weeks.
All right, well, have fun, and let me know how we can, FaceTime or something from over there.
I'll have Wi-Fi once in a while.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Who knows when the next recording will be? Kevin?
Thanks.
I think they are all looking for new markets. I think that's true. I think Apple has successfully invented some new markets that wasn't there before, and that's how it's done so well. Because they also had the strategy where they didn't need to own all of it. They've been able to say we don't have to have the entire market to make money, and we can take the top end of it and do that there. The others are going for ubiquity, and the problem is you can keep doubling, but once you succeed at ubiquity, you can't double anymore, and then you're in this crisis of like, what do we do now? Where's this new thing? And that's the place that Google is now, and Facebook is just hitting at the moment, because they aren't easily going to be doubling.
I don't agree that Facebook's hitting that. They haven't even
But there are
started.
1.2 billion people online.
So what? They haven't.
Because they've got 600 million users. They can't double again.
They don't need to double again. They can start
But
monetizing this huge
But this
audience.
is the point. The point is, you've been talking about growth and doubling. You build for that, and then you hit this. You naturally hit a saturation point. Google has hit that because there was this limit to how much they could take of the advertising market.
What was the saturation point that Apple hit?
The saturation when? There was saturation
Exactly.
point.
That would be my point. When?
Well, no,
Haven't hit it.
as I say, Apple,
They're going like this.
because they're playing a different game. Yeah, because the Apple
Right.
is not.
Facebook can play some of that game. Google, hard times.
I think.
Well, the difference with Apple is they can completely change their product. They take a perfectly good phone that you had, and then a year later they roll out some improvements to it, and suddenly you got to trash the whole thing.
You mean, in other words, that Google is somehow prevented from changing their product?
Yeah.
Or what?
What the hell? What are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna go back and say, you know what? Google Search 1.0 no longer works. Now you got to go. I mean, it doesn't.
That is a problem, isn't it?
You don't. But yeah, but that's you don't throw that away, right? You keep Google and Facebook are reusable. You're going to keep reusing them, if you will, over and over.
I have an Android 1 and an Android 2.
I know, Robert, but you're unusual, as you know, in a good way. But what I mean is, and of course, Google's not making any money off your Android 1 or Android 2, right? Because seriously, because not only did they not get paid for the operating system, but you literally are not going to be searching on both of those phones at the same time and potentially clicking on an ad. You're going to be using one or the other, except in some really, really limited test cases. So Facebook and Google are reusable, and they do hit this limit that Kevin's talking about, where at some point everyone's using them, and we don't need any more. And the only way they get their growth is if they expand into a completely new kind of market or new kind of service that they weren't serving before and that maybe nobody else was doing. Apple, they just have to obsolete their equipment every year. I mean, it's a beautiful business to be in, right? I mean, except for the environment and stuff like that. But
come on. I don't have to buy newspapers anymore. I don't have to buy TV shows.
I you have to buy the DVDs, but
I don't no DVDs. There's no.
I know.
There's no landfill that I'm.
But it wasn't
filling.
Apple that made that happen.
Oh,
Streaming was
please! Are we back to Wi-Fi?
Oh my
It
God.
was not the single most.
Did Apple invent streaming media? Oh my goodness! I didn't realize that.
Yeah. QuickTime,
they?
20 years ago.
All right, I give it to him. You're right. I should have realized that everything came from Apple. Did I tell you about my Steve Jobs Twitter account? What does I call that again? You need to go start reading that.
How's that?
Twitter.
How's that Oprah app doing for you,
It's
Danny?
called If Steve Jobs. You got to go to it. It's called If Steve Jobs on Twitter.
They're going to change at Disney World. It's going to be it's an apps world.
Yeah, I won't even need to go. First of all, I'd go to Disneyland, but secondly, I won't need to go because I'll just go to virtual Disney, right?
Okay.
It'll be Disney.
Imagine Steve Jobs getting Disneyland redesigned. That would be cool. And
But anyway,
Apple taking over the
has
world
some
of tomorrow.
advantages where they produce hardware, and the hardware can keep changing. Google and Facebook produce software that you never have to pay to upgrade. Now, if Google were really brave, imagine if they said, "Hey, you want to keep using our search engine? You got to actually pay for it," and managed to pull that off and come up with a mechanism to do that, and then you had to keep paying on a yearly basis to renew it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
The Wolfram Alpha model, yeah.
This is Steve Gillmor. This has been the Gillmor Gang. I want to thank Rackspace and particularly Rob Legess for making this show possible back on the air. I want to thank Robert Scoble for delaying his trip to Europe. No, he just was here. But I want to thank him. I want to thank Danny Sullivan for being so passionate and completely wrong.
Passionately wrong.
And Kevin Marks for being there at the last second. We appreciate that. And, our surveys show that you're the only one that anybody believes on this show. So we'll keep that in mind.
Good.
And nobody knows what John Taschek does, but everybody, when they listen back in slow motion on their podcast downloads, they realize that he actually knows what he's talking about. And me, I think Newtek and the TriCaster for making this into video and obviating the need for audio podcasts. Thank you very much. RSS is still dead. I want to thank everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you later.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good flight, Robert.
Yep, thanks.
Good weekend.
See you
Good
from
weekend,
Munich.
everybody.